All right, let's go. It's Weather for Weather Geeks time here on Friday evening, the 28th of December. 2018, just a few days left in the year, and it's been a pretty remarkable year weather-wise. I'm going to have a complete review of the year and an updated January 2019 forecast coming up on Monday evening, New Year's Eve. I'll do a written blog post on ericwfmj.com, and I'll have kind of the video version here on Weather for Weather Geeks Monday evening. In the meantime, it's not been snow, it's been rain that we've had over the last 24 hours, and here's some actual rain gauge numbers from our rain last night to that little dose of light rain that occurred morning and midday today. About 1/4 of an inch downtown and in Boardman, similar numbers down in Columbiana County, and a little bit slower totals as you go up to the north of Interstate 80 in Trumbull and Mercer counties, although over in Mercer, rain gauge over there registered .31. But what a wet year it has been. Almost 12 inches, a full foot more rain or more precipitation in total than average here in Youngstown. It's been the wettest year on record in many places. Pittsburgh and Wheeling are kind of in that conversation with almost 20 inches worth of rain in those locales. Akron, New Philly to Mansfield, that corridor, that was a little bit of a drier zone, still above average, but not quite as impressively above average as from Youngstown down to Wheeling, down to Pittsburgh, and over into Du Bois and Johnstown and State College. Cleveland also way, way above average for the year. Now, we are going to make a run at second place here on the wettest years, the list of wettest years on record in Youngstown. The number to beat to get to second place is 50.71, so we need .74 inches worth of rain coming up on New Year's Eve day on Monday in order to hop up to second place. We're not going to get to first place. 2011's record will not be touched this year. But, you know, I've said this many times. Look at all the recent years on this list. Just since the turn of the century, a lot of wet weather across our region. So, will we get to second place? I think we've got a good chance of it. Here's a look at our computer modeling for the rain event that's coming up on Monday and into Monday night. Of course, we need the magic number before midnight, Monday night, before the new year starts. But I think we've got a chance by midnight to perhaps get up in the 3/4 of an inch to an inch range. Models are in pretty good agreement on the rainfall total, so it's possible we get up to second place. All right, back here in the near term, it wasn't quite as windy as I thought it would be today. A little bit breezy at times, but really nothing to write home about. That being said, the cold air is about to rush in, and I do think there will be an increase in the winds this evening with the colder air rushing in from the west. Pretty easy to find the cold front. The radar is dry. It's going to stay that way aside from a sprinkle tonight, but here's our front. Not hard to pick this out. I'll draw it for you, but yeah, it's right here, kind of almost to I-71 right now. Notice the difference between, say, Indianapolis and Columbus. It's a few-hour drive on I-70, but it's almost a 20-degree difference here in the 7 o'clock hour, and we'll see a similar plunge here late this evening. It'll be a pretty big difference between, say, 9 p.m. and 1 a.m., that 4-hour zone. I think we'll see a big drop in our temperatures. I wanted to show you this. This is a classic cold air damming situation today, earlier on today, especially down in parts of the Carolinas and Virginia. Cold air damming is when cold, dense air banks up against the Appalachians. Of course, this is very mountainous terrain out here. That cold, dense air banks up against the Appalachians, and you see these big temperature differences. Look at the difference between Augusta and Charlotte, almost a 25-degree difference, and that's not a very big distance between those two cities. So that was kind of cool to look at earlier on today. It makes for a forecasting nightmare for meteorologists near those zones because you could see some big temperature differences over short distances. All right, a lot of snow yesterday into last night in places such as Albuquerque, New Mexico. What a mess out there in New Mexico, and heading up into the high plains, a decent amount of snow on the ground. But boy, once you're south of I-90, boy, there's hardly anything in a lot of the eastern two-thirds of the country as far as snow on the ground. We're not going to add to that anytime real soon. Tomorrow, our model here shows some white and blue, indicating there might be some flurries. Actually, don't think there'll be many snowflakes formed tomorrow. The air very dry up in that prime spot in the atmosphere where the temperatures are just right for snowflakes to form. So if we see any precipitation tomorrow, it might be a spritz or a sprinkle. I just don't think the atmosphere will be real conducive to forming snowflakes tomorrow. Just a cloudy, uneventful day overall. A better day Sunday. And then boy, take advantage of Sunday if you can. If you want to take down your holiday decorations a little early before New Year's, maybe Sunday's a good day to do that. Monday, it turns out to be a rainy day. Of course, a lot of people are off on New Year's Eve, and it's going to start raining by about lunchtime and just be a soaker of an afternoon. Appropriately enough, on this very wet year, the year ends on a wet note coming up on Monday. Now, the question is, does the rain get out of here in time for the celebrations? Monday night is the clock strikes midnight. A lot of people will be out and about, of course, indoors, but some people may be celebrating outdoors, including here in Youngstown. And there's a chance the rain tries to taper off a little before midnight. A low confidence forecast on that. I have a higher confidence in the temperature forecast. It's going to be much different than last year. Last year, it was really cold, and there was a little snow on the ground as well. This year, nothing like that. 50, 51, that might even be conservative. There's a chance it's in the mid-50s at midnight. Now, if it is that warm at midnight, it's not going to stay that way all night. At some point Monday night, probably after midnight, we're going to see a pretty big temperature plunge, and then temperatures will hardly move on New Year's Day. It's going to be a day kind of like tomorrow will be, a cloudy day, an uneventful day, maybe a sprinkle, but definitely a colder day. When we look back at New Year's Day history for January 1st, the warmest was in 1985, the coldest high temperature in 1969. Now, we had one of the coldest New Year's on record last year, or technically still this year, in 2018. Our high was just 13. This low of -1 tied the record low for the date. On January the 1st, we had 0.2 inches worth of snow. What a remarkable stretch of weather between Christmas and New Year's during this past year. This year, nothing like that. This year, just a seasonable New Year's, it looks like, with temperatures staying in the 30s. We won't see anything like this, like we had in 1964 when we had a half a foot worth of snow. If you are longing for some snow, this is not your pattern in the short and medium range. Over the next week, less than an inch. I don't even think we sniff an inch worth of snow in most locales over the next 7 days. The 8 to 14 day outlook is not a particularly cold looking weather map. If you watched my video last night, I showed that the second half of January certainly has a better chance of seeing the cold trying to lock in, but the first half of January, I think we're going to see some back and forth type of stuff, and it may not, as an average, when you average it all together, may not be a very cold first half of January. Also, not particularly stormy. Pretty good odds of below average precipitation during the first half of January. So, boy, kind of a snow desert around here so far in meteorological winter, and I don't see that changing until we head into the second half of January. That's it for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here Monday evening. Have a great weekend, everyone. And if I don't see you before Monday night, Happy New Year.